Iredell County Sheriff Darren Campbell announces the arrest of 44-year-old Terrell Williams from Stone Mountain, Georgia, after it is alleged that he broke into the Greg Biffle estate after the tragic passing of him and Greg's family at the Statesville Regional Airport back on December 18, 2025, in a tragic plane crash. Now here is Sheriff Campbell.
Okay, first of all, thank you for everybody that came here today. I know it's a late evening, but we want to be able to provide a little bit of an update on a very high-profile case that we have received a lot of attention on, and this is one of the biggest break in the case that we have received. But before I get started, introduce my name. I'm Darren Campbell, Sheriff here in Iredell County. This beside us, one of the supervisors, Julie White, is of our Criminal Investigations Division. Adam Dillard, an attorney here at the Sheriff's Office. Two of our investigators was involved in this case. One other investigator that couldn't be here today for a doctor's appointment is Donald Clodfelter, one of our lieutenants. Kevin Sherrard, one of the investigators specifically assigned to the white-collar version of this complex case. So let me start by saying there's two different segments to this case. Mostly is the white-collar fraud side, which is stretched from California to South Carolina, many other states. We're still actively working that. We do have a person of interest. We are working with other agencies. That's that side of it. This side of it we're here today is to announce, and for a couple reasons. One, as I've said, it's very high profile, but also to let victims and families or other agencies that may, once I read this, how this person operates and what he was specifically targeting. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer. We will limit the questions because I've got to make sure we do protect the case. It's very complex. A lot of moving parts with a lot of different agencies, state, local, and federal partners. So I've got to be very cautious about that, and I will refer some of the questions over to some of the investigators if we can answer. So first, the reason we're here is to update the public with the Iredell County Sheriff's Office investigation of the burglary of late NASCAR driver Greg Biffle. After an extensive multi-state investigation, our detectives have identified and charged 44-year-old Terrell Williams of Stone Mountain, Georgia, in connection with this burglary. Williams is 5'9", 170 pounds, and is known to use several aliases and a Charlotte address, despite currently living in Georgia. On January 8th, our deputies responded to the Biffle residence after the burglary was reported. Numerous items were stolen, including multiple firearms, NASCAR memorabilia, gold, silver coins, and cash in excess of $30,000. Our Criminal Investigations Division began working this case immediately. Security camera footage showed a suspect entering the residence, but because of the low light conditions and infrared illumination, because you have to remember it was totally black, only by illumination by infrared cameras, which shows no color or anything, the detectives could not positively identify a person. We never really put out just an individual. We want to make sure that we acted on evidence, not just on video footage because of the facial coverings and everything of that nature. From that point, our detectives began building the case piece by piece. Over the next several months, they conducted numerous interviews, followed by leads, obtained over multiple search warrants, over 24 search warrants in this specific case, analyzed cell phone records, cellular tower information, and other electronic devices. The significant break came after detectives had been working this case on July 29th when Cobb County Police Department in Georgia contacted our office in regarding Terrell Williams, who had been arrested in a connection of a separate residential burglary, which was a highly publicized homicide case. Information developed in that investigation indicated the property associated with the Williams at that time was connected to the burglary here in Iredell County of the late Greg Biffle's residence. Our detectives traveled to Georgia and have continued to execute search warrants with Georgia and travel back and forth. In fact, one of the investigators, Dr. Foreman, and this morning or yesterday was in Georgia. That's one of the reasons he couldn't be here. But the property connected to Williams was recovered and examined, and detectives confirmed that most of those items had been stolen from the Biffle residence. Another point in other items that was recovered was tied to some break-ins in western North Carolina, which actually was an officer's duty firearm. After 3 years, we have recovered that firearm. We are in touch with that police department. So this person's method of the way he operated and what we're seeing is basically he used headlines, social media posts, different things to find out when people were or were not at home. And he executed his plan in that capacity, which is the exact same thing happened with this high-level homicide in Georgia. But during the execution of our search warrants, investigators also recovered an RF or radio frequency detector. This type of device can be used to locate cameras and otherwise wireless security equipment. Based on the evidence developed in this investigation, detectives believe that this device was used while the suspect navigated the Biffle residence. And if you look at the video, you can see in his hands a device with a wire, potentially a wire, and we've had that examined, and it does be consistent with what we found. At the same time, our detectives continued analyzing cellular information obtained through previous search warrants and compared that information with electronic evidence that was recovered in Georgia. That analysis places Williams at the Biffle residence at the time of the burglary and in the immediate area of the days leading up to it, basically doing surveillance. Detectives also determined on the day following the burglary, Williams used cash stolen and the approximate amount to purchase another vehicle in an area, an automotive dealership in a connecting county. That vehicle was later located and seized in Georgia and now is in the custody of the Iredell County Sheriff's Office. Based on the totality of the evidence developed to date, Williams has been charged with multiple felonies, including second-degree burglary, safe-cracking, money laundering, obtaining property by false pretense, possession of burglary tools, larceny of firearms, and larceny after breaking and entering. Williams is currently being held without bond in Cobb County, Georgia, in connection with a separate residential burglary that we spoke of involving the homicide. The circumstances of that case have also drawn our attention because Williams is accused of targeting, as I said, unoccupied residents associated with highly publicized homicides and other cases. Our detectives believe that those circumstances may demonstrate a pattern of conduct that could be relevant to other law enforcement agencies throughout the country, investigating similar burglaries involving vacant or unoccupied residents in connection with those type of crimes. The Iredell County Sheriff's Office has requested Williams' extradition back to North Carolina, where he will be served with felony warrants in this case, and also has pending felony warrants related to a 2019 breaking and entering case out of Mecklenburg County. I also want to emphasize that this investigation is nowhere near over. Our detectives continue reviewing cellular data, electronic evidence, recovered property, financial information, interviews, search warrant returns, and all other evidence. Additional charges are possible, and we feel confident, and are continuing to work and determine whether any other individuals were directly involved in any of these cases. I want to say I'm extremely proud of the work our investigators did. I also want to demonstrate how cases work and often solved by not just one single point of evidence, but several pieces of evidence connected together. Persistence, attention to detail, and ability to recognize how many different pieces of evidence can solve one crime. I also want to thank the Cobb County Police Department, the Cobb County Police Department, Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, United States Secret Service, and our Federal Bureau of Investigation partners who helped us analyze some evidence. And also I want to give a shout out to NASCAR, who was willing to participate. They've helped us. I've been on the phone with them several times over the course of this where they could help, but our detectives will continue to follow the evidence wherever it leads. I do not think this will be the end of this. I still think there's a white-collar nexus to this, and we do, like I said, we've got a person of interest. That'll be upcoming, and because this remains an active investigation and criminal charges are pending, there are some details that I cannot or unable to share with you. But if that does, that's all I have to say. If you would, I'll try to take as many questions as I can. And I do want to say one last thing before. This is some of the evidence that we found. This will be in your press release. As you'll see, there's different bars, NASCAR-related memorabilia, things of that nature, rings, stuff of that nature. And also I will show you this is a picture of our suspect. This will be attached to our press release as well. And I will go ahead and start by, I know one of the questions is going to be the security footage and how this appears different. And I will simply say we have done some testing on that. And you have to remember it was totally dark. This is infrared illumination, no color involved. So we feel confident with a high degree of probable cause this is our suspect. Do I think that he was in the residence himself? I do not. I still think that's part of the investigation. So what you see on the camera footage and this person, we can definitely place him at the house, but we cannot sit there and say for sure that's him. First of all, there's a mask and other things, so we do know that, but he was a participant in this. With that being said.
Are you still investigating whether people in the Biffle inner circle are involved in this in some way?
I think that's still on the probable cause states for the search warrants. I think that case is still ongoing. Like I said, we do have a person of interest out of state. This is being chased, just to name just a couple, South Carolina to California. So this is a very complex case. To answer your question, I can't answer your question right now, but I can say it wasn't probable cause of the search warrant. So are we ruling anything out? Absolutely not.
So it was more of a string of robberies, more so than just like an isolated attack?
This person appears to operate way below the radar. Obviously, he's got the 2019 break-in from Charlotte. If you'll notice, he has a lot of safe cracking, a lot of felony. His criminal record was as long as I could hold up here, so I didn't address it here. But I think he did a good job of staying off social media. He used plenty of alias names. One of the mistakes he made up here, which is when he purchased the vehicle, I think he sort of got confused with what name he was using, which led us a break up here, and along with Georgia authorities, was able to help that case. But to answer your question, I think he was very efficient at what he did, and this is not something just started last month. This other case is probably 3 years old in the western part of North Carolina. We have talked to that county and that police department, and we do know we have a weapon that was, and basically what it was an officer, had a tragedy, and while it was well known publicly that he was in the hospital, the break-in occurred. And that's one reason I want to reach out to other agencies who may have these type of crimes. This guy was mobile. I mean, he, from Charlotte, but used several aliases, and was basically living now currently in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Yes, sir.
For clarity, is this case connected to the other ongoing investigation into the inner circle, or are they unrelated, or?
The question of these cases connected. I cannot say well, let me put it to you this way. Same victim, so obviously they're connected in that nexus. Different set of investigators are working on the property crime and the break and entering cases along with Cobb County, Georgia. The other side is white collar, which is working more with our Secret Service, our Federal Bureau of Investigative Partners. They're working that case. And because it stretches all the way across the country and back to South Carolina, we don't know where else it's at. So I want to say yes, they're connected for the victim, but it's a very complex and huge nexus and a lot of tentacles that go a lot of different places.
But this man's not being charged with accessing the bank accounts and things of that information at this point.
Yeah, and the question is he being charged with accessing the bank accounts? No, not at this point. He is not. It's specifically the break-in, but there again, there's a lot of evidence. We don't know what else potentially could have been stolen. Could you have had passwords? Could you have had financial documents? That's something that we have to determine through the course of the investigation. And one reason we brought y'all together today, because we knew that this would get out, and we wanted to make sure that the public had an opportunity to know it, and the family. And we have been in touch with the family. We've explained to the family, they know everything that's going on. But also for those other agencies that may have these type of crimes, totally unaffiliated with the late Greg Biffle, but athletes or anybody, or even the break-in I told you in the mountains, that was a law enforcement officer. It was highly publicized. This individual took advantage of it.
How many people could be involved on this side of things? Are there more accomplices, suspects? Could you give a range or a number right now?
The question was how many more people can be involved in this side of the investigation. This is the one we charged. We are monitoring things. We are aware of his family members' connections. So that's part of the investigation. So I don't want to say 2 to 10, but there is some other people that we're looking at in conjunction with this case. And I feel fairly confident there will be some additional charges.
Sheriff, with him being
sir.
in Georgia right now, facing charges there, what is the schedule for him to get here to face charges here?
The question is, when will he basically be brought back from Georgia? We've got to let Cobb County, they're handling their cases. They've got pending cases. Their case, and I'm not going to say who it was, but it was a highly publicized homicide. They have a job to do, and they're holding him down there on those break-in charges, in addition to whatever else they get. So we will file for the extradition. We've already spoke to the district attorney, even as late as last week. So we are going to extradite him back, but really the time frame is when Cobb County or when Georgia's finished with him, we'll take him from there. But as far as going and getting him and bringing him back, unless it's just for specific, you got the opportunity to waive extradition, fight extradition. Unless it's just a court hearing here, such as a first appearance, and that's very going ahead and saying he's going to waive, is most likely be held in Georgia.
Do you know how he was caught down there?
Yes, he was actually called. He had been seen in the area, and I will make this very simple. It's a long story, but basically there was a QR code on the back of the vehicle. They used ALPRs to identify that, and then ultimately get the lead with this suspect, the tag, and tracking back the vehicle registration. So the question was, how was it? It was ALPR. It was basically a flock camera. It's basically where the final connection point from the UCR code on the vehicle to the vehicle description to being able to lock down the registered owner or registered owner associated with this individual.
And he had no personal connection to Biffle, correct?
I'm sorry?
The guy that's been charged didn't have a personal connection to Biffle.
That's a
correct?
great question, and the question is, did he have a personal connection to Greg Biffle? Nothing that we have found, nor any relationship with any relatives. It seems he just learned of this through social media, newspaper, the internet. That's the best way. Obviously, and I won't say, we spent 4 hours interviewing him yesterday. There's still a lot of interviews going on. This just because we're doing this is the latest update. There's still a lot of things that have to be conducted in this investigation. Yes, somebody.
Sheriff, can you released and what's on it, do you think he is actually in that?
I think high probability with a lot of probable, or basically, I feel confident that he is there. We can put him there's other things I haven't told, we can put him at the residence. We know that at the time. I can put him doing surveillance at that specific residence prior to. As far as the video footage, and you have somebody, I feel confident. You look at the facial pitch, or the facial image, the eyebrows, which can easily be changed, things of that nature. You can see a close resemblance. But what I want to go is 100% this is who that is in that particular picture with half of a face covered. I wouldn't go that far. But I can put him at the residence, or they can.
Sheriff, how
Yes.
common or uncommon is it that folks who have had a tragedy then are targets of criminals such as this?
The question is, how often are people that are victim of tragedy does this happen to? It's not as common as it used to be. You used to hear, well, let me rephrase that. It's more common now. Used to, you'd read obituaries in the newspaper, and people would obviously take advantage of that. Now these high-profile cases like this, a NASCAR driver getting killed tragically with a family, and it's not a lot of searching to find out where the residence is. And I think it's become more common, and a lot of people may say, even down to the local level, and it's one reason we wanted to do this, as a family member, you may say, hey, I was in a bad accident, I'm at the hospital for a week. You just really have to be careful, because this case in the mountains in western North Carolina was basically a tragic accident. It was well known that the officer was in the hospital, and then the break-in happened. Now here 3 years later, he's still a victim, but we've got the gun and a suspect. So to answer your question, you have to be careful, and yes, it's become more prominent.
How can folks keep themselves from being victimized like this?
Be very private on social media. Make sure you know we'll use Meta or Facebook, for example, know who your friends are. Just don't put a lot of personal information that you don't want to be identified is the safest thing I can say. You know, obviously this is a different type of case, but it's a high-profile case, but it easily happens to individuals, and we see that.
Sheriff, I'm
Yes.
gonna miss this.
Yes, sir, David.
How can you place him at that residence, besides since you're not 100% sure on the video?
A lot of it's some digital footprint, search warrants, tower, cell phone triangulation, a lot of different things that we can put him very specific inside down to almost a square meter in the residence at certain times. So without getting into all that details and reviewing it all, but I've been reassured that that's the way it was and seen some of the documents. So that's how we was able to do it. And not only that, we're still having communication with him. So, and we potentially know, going back to your question, family members and associates.
Can you spell his name and tell us his age?
Oh, let me see. I believe he was 44 years old. First name Terrell, Terrell Williams, Williams. He is 44 years old, currently listed in Stone Mountain, Georgia.
Can you give an estimate right now as to how many victims he's connected to, or how many cases? I know you said it's multiple, it's statewide, or if there's a ballpark right now of just larger cases.
You know, I don't know. Just looking at his history, there's been several victims, and that's in the history. So going forward, part of the purpose of this is to make other agencies aware of, we've experienced this. Cobb County to Cobb County down, both the police departments there are seeing this. And the one it happened to in Cobb was a victim of a homicide from a highly publicized case with a big Fortune 500 company. So I wouldn't be able to tell, and we don't know how far this will go, which is one of the purposes of this. Yes, sir, Dana.
Going back to him in Georgia, how was it connected to here? I understand you said the QR code on the car, but
Yeah.
how did you guys have that information from here to know that?
No, the great advantage of using technology, they found a ring and initials. They Googled that ring and the type of ring it was and tied it back directly to the press release that we'd made in the local media. So that's how they was able to tie it back. They was basically see probably, you know, I definitely don't want to specify one news agency in here, but they were able to Google it. That came back to Iredell County Sheriff's Office, and that's how we got involved. And we'd already been working the case. You know, we've been doing a lot of search warrants, a lot of tracking, but this was a great piece of work and evidence.
Sheriff,
Yes, ma'am.
How many aliases do you know him to have at this point, and can you say
I'd heard, and I also refer you to 6 or 7.
Yes, sir. So he was primarily in the past 6-7 years, he's been using one. That's how he's been kind of evading, especially since his charges out of Mecklenburg County. And then outside of that, there's about 4 or 5 other various names that are kind of close resemblance to what his actual name is. So with that one name is how he's been able to get around. And then he was stopped, and they confirmed this is actually who it is.
Thank you.
Sheriff, how many items were found with Mr. Williams when he was arrested?
You know, I can't, from us, I'd probably say 10 to 20. I can't remember individual pieces, and I don't know if every piece was in that picture. There was some other stuff that was located through phone conversations that we was able to get. I don't know what Cobb County also found in relationship to their cases. So specifically for us, initially I'd say 10 to 20 pieces.
Is there a dollar amount on that of what was taken out of the Biffle residence?
No, without value, you know, find out what the composition of the ring and stuff. I cannot tell you just a basic value of it. I'm sure that it was very, you know, it's personal items, very important, valuable to the family, and I'd hate to put a price on that.
And when you mentioned ring, could you be more specific with, was it a part of memorabilia? Was it from something from a race? Was it related to Greg or Christina? Or
I believe it was not specifically a certain race, but it was NASCAR memorabilia that historically marked a point in his career.
Has anything been recovered that has been stolen?
We have recovered all that. It's in our possession now. We have recovered. There's still some things out there we want to make sure. In fact, the question about that's a good thing, because some of the things that we did recover, they were not aware at the time had been stolen. So that's a great point. So we did recover some additional items that now we have found to be connected to Mr. Biffle. Y'all?
Sheriff, if you've been able to speak with the Biffle family and, you know, just relay this to them, and what was their response?
I'll let Lieutenant Clawfelter, I think he met with them last night, again, the most recent conversation, so, and basically what the conversation went.
So spoke with them last night just to update them, and their biggest thing is they are seeing some relief that there is progress in the case. And this to them is a marker for that, and being able to see tangible items from the house since Greg's passing. So this was a very big moment for them on that aspect.
And I do want to say, and I think Lieutenant Clawfelter will agree, the family's been nothing but great to work with. I mean, they understand our roles. They understand the restrictions and the capabilities that we have. So I'm just glad that we're able to get a little bit of relief, I think is a good way to put it, and to get some of the valuable things back to their family.
what was it like for you to be able to let them know that you're able to bring some of that stuff back home to the family?
I'll let Donald Clawfelter again, or Kevin Sherrard, because they've been in contact trying to get everything identified and make sure we're at the right place. So I'll let them respond to that.
Especially with just how tragic and high profile this case is and then a tragedy like this happens after. What was it like to say you're bringing that stuff home?
Honestly, it's like any other case that would work. It's some kind of closure to the family, and that's why we do this. Regardless of the size of it, the case, it's some kind of closure for the family. And that's, relief for us. We're getting to some progress of, hey, we've gotten something back for you. So.
And I do want to say, we're not, and like I said in the original comments, this investigation is by no means over. We spoke to the family. They've got questions. Well, not questions. We'll make sure, hey, how's this? What did you think about it? So far, we're step with them, but we want to let them know that this is not over. And if not this specific case, by bringing this guy's method of operation, whatever, to another jurisdiction, it don't matter if it's halfway across the country. If we can bring closure to family, that was one of the main purposes of this meeting here today. Yes.
Sure. Yeah. Could you clarify the Western North Carolina, the officer accident that you referred? Was that has that already been charged? Had he already been charged with that case?
I don't want to get into the specifics of which county. Well, it's actually a police department within a county. No, I don't. He has not been charged with that yet, and I want to make sure. I mean, it's nothing that I don't think they would mind, but I just want to make sure the case. I don't want to potentially hurt the case by saying something I shouldn't. But I can tell you this: that we know that Georgia's been in touch with them, and they have confirmed that's the weapon, and it was a weapon that was stolen from an officer 3 years later. So I feel sure that's going to be something coming pretty quick.
Yes,
David.
Are you looking into whether anyone else was in and around the house that night besides this man?
The question is, are we looking to anybody else that was in or around the house that night? And the answer is yes. We're obviously still investigating just because we've got this one part of it. There's still other, we want to make sure we leave no stone unturned, and that'll be going through interviews, through relationships, going back to family members and friends, digital footprints, search warrants, cell phone dumps. There's so many things that we have still got to follow up. We've just got one part of it, and we just got to keep going.
Sheriff?
Yes.
Going to the other investigation, there's been some pretty high-profile search warrants. Have you ruled any of those search warrants out for those particular people, or is that all still very active?
And I'll let Detective Sherrard speak. He is running that side. If you would like to comment on that. Best you can.
We're still looking into every aspect. There's still a lot of information that has to be gone through. So we're still trying to piece that together.
Thank you.
And Dan, I will address that a little bit. There's a lot of search warrant information. You know, sometimes big companies are not as expedient as they should be getting information, so we've got to wait on that. And then that's one of the reasons we're working with the Secret Service and different federal partners. They're a little quicker on getting some of that turnaround time, so we're still waiting for a lot of that information to come back. Okay, y'all, any last questions, and we will wrap it up. I'll say thank you. Yes, ma'am.
The gentleman beside you, can you spell his name, please?
Claude Felter?
Yes.
I'll let him spell it.
It's gonna be CLODFELTER.
Y'all, once again, thank you very much, and the people's looking, you can look at this. It'll be, if you follow us on Iredell County Sheriff's Office Facebook, it'll be on there. If any of y'all need any questions specific that may come up, you can email us to icsoinfo@iredellcountync.gov. We'll try to answer every question. I want to say thank you again for coming out and help get this word out, and hopefully it'll help a family, not only this family, but other families that I feel confident this individual has made victims somewhere. So thank you again for coming out.